welcome everybody. I know none of you, Ralph, thank you for coming.
Thanks for your
I'm
interest.
assuming, maybe,
You know, I'm sitting here, don't you?
huh?
Let's go, I'm sitting right here next to the mic.
You are, and I'm like, word must have gotten around town that, you know, Nihilus is gonna talk for the first 30, 40 minutes, and just wait till, whatever. Okay. All that aside, we do have a presentation put together tonight is a variation of what we did with the budget committees a couple times, so you're gonna see some of the same stuff again. And the people in the crowd here are going to see the same stuff again, and they've done most of it, so it's stuff that they've done. So Jerry, maybe, well, this will be new for you, even though the term is stuff you hear a lot. So, how did you go on there? You want to move so you can see it? Oh, you got, that's right, I forgot you got that. Okay, enrollment drives a lot of things. It drives programs, it drives funding somewhat, although not as much in New Hampshire as some states. But it does have an effect. So each year it's good to take a look and compare where we are with the year prior. Program enrollment, CTC, I think that Al has said on numerous occasions that the 109 number of students from our Region 3 schools, in some cases represents almost all the seniors in those schools are over here, first hour. And even in the larger schools, a good portion of them are over here. Our SPED and academy numbers. This is NASDAQ, the most recent enrollment projection data. We wish the line was going the other way. Kind of interesting. I do want to say that the NASDAQ enrollment projections are different than they were a year ago. They're significantly lower than they were a year ago. Everyone I've contacted tells me it's the same thing. And I think part of it is it reflects, a year ago at this time, NASDAQ was projecting our enrollment to decline around 8% over the next 10 years. Now it's more than that. And I think that's part of what they're seeing in terms of a regional decline in enrollment. And by regional, that being New England, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Vermont, and so on. Some fairly significant enrollment declines. However, they always do put the disclaimer. There's other factors, things that will affect certain communities that will do better than others with respect to population. So we'll see how this pans out over time, and hopefully the economy will continue to diversify a little, and will continue to be a regional hub as it is. I'm pretty certain of that, and in fact might beat those odds a bit. We have exceeded their projections, by the way, in recent years. Staffing comparisons. This is a little different slide than we've seen a few times because I did move it up a year, so we're comparing about a 10-year span. Overall, the overall ratio, we do have more staff. As you look at it with a ratio, we have fewer students per staff member. If you look at just the teachers, though, it's about the same. So the student-teacher ratio has remained pretty stable over the last 10 years. Some of the other areas have changed a little bit, and again, I think that's reflective a bit of our student population, which is some of the numbers that we see here in terms of free and reduced, special education enrollment. Again, the number itself isn't that much different, and we probably need to develop a weighting scale at some point to help measure our special ed population, all of our student population, though, but especially some of our special needs students in terms of the need, because we know on a day-to-day basis that we have students that bring more and more challenges and significant challenges. So the population, even though the numbers don't change that much, the percentage of SPED students is much higher because the loss and the difficulty is much higher. 504, which again are students that have a disability that's not applicable under IDEA, and they do receive accommodations for the most part, support.
Question.
Yes.
On your teacher ratio of 10.2?
Yep.
What is the state average this year?
It's up toward 15.
15 to 1.
Correct.
And we're 10,
It's actually about 16 to 1. Yeah.
we're 10 to 1.
We are.
Okay.
Yeah, that's we are staffed definitely more than the state average. Not much different from similar schools in the North Country, or some schools that have similar populations.
And on the reductions here,
Yes, sir.
your student count since 2008 is down 173 students.
Right.
But your staff count is only down 6 staff.
Yeah. So it depends on teachers is down significantly. Actually, the ratio stayed about the same with the teachers, but you're right. Some of the other staff, more paras, more students needing one-on-one support. Yeah, good question, Ralph. It's that's why I said it's a little tricky because some students may be on an IEP and they require minimal services, and others require a full-time person with them all the time. Some require classroom settings sometimes for at least part of the day when they're alone or only have one or two people with them. So it's a bit of a moving target. Administration's a little less, but again, we're seeing librarians are less, but we do see an increase in some of the support positions. Going to talk a little bit about some of the courses, the programs that specifically at the middle school, high school levels, mostly high school, because this is where, again, the elementary school provides strong instruction, getting kids ready in reading, in basic skills, in computer technology skills. They get a chance to explore the arts. We have great programs at the elementary school to prepare our kids to do it at middle school, and the curriculum opens up a bit more. There are more choices, and finally in high school becomes even more choices. So we'll talk about that program just a little bit. And the reason I thought it was important to talk about this is because we're gonna talk about numbers in a little while, and budgets and dollars, and it's important to see what that money, those dollars, those resources from the community, what's being done. So this is a pretty traditional, broad, middle school curriculum, at least in terms of the courses. Everyone in this room, probably there's nothing there that's all that ordinary, although there's some things in there like inquiry, some of the tech eds and things that aren't necessarily things that we've always had in middle school, at least not until recently. High school, the curriculum gets much broader. These are core courses. Electives, more electives, tech courses. The Career Technical Center, again, really opens up a whole new world for many students, not, as I showed before, not just here in Littleton, but in the surrounding communities. Students from Profile come here, the regional come here, Linwood, Lisbon. So we have Groton, Stratford. We have a lot of students coming here to take classes in these areas. Internships is a big part of the high school program. Students going out, working in a variety of businesses, a variety of professions. And again, we're grateful, not just to the people that we see on this slide, but we're grateful to the people in the town, the businesses, individuals who give of their time and resources to allow us to provide such great intern opportunities for our students. Advanced placement, a little bit looking at some things going ahead in next year, more offerings. Again, we'll have to look at based on student demand and staffing needs and You know, again, we'll talk a bit later about doing more with what we have and using the resources we have as efficiently and effectively as possible. But we do want to continue to offer kids, students the opportunity to take high-level courses in not only advanced placement, but some other programs we'll look at here in a minute. Also, we continue to have a basically almost an unlimited number of courses available via the distributed education program through technology. Community college system running start courses. These are classes that students take, and they get if it's a running start dual credit course, they're able to get credit for both a high school class as well as a college class. And these are the ones with a little star by them. Those are classes that, with recent work by the state of New Hampshire, those are classes that basically the cost will be funded by the state. So students can attend those classes, and providing they do well, the cost of tuition will be waived. VLAX, again, this is a state program that allows students to earn college credit online. Quite a few students, last year 39 participants, 23 in advanced coursework, 14 out of 40, low 40s seniors took advantage of this. Did I say that right, Jen? That last number?
14 they've taken.
14 out, yeah.
The AP test, I do remember, there were 10 tests given to 6 students this year. Not all of our students who take AP take the test necessarily.
Yeah.
But they're taking more than we're offering. If they're taking 10 different subject area tests in AP, it's beyond our one AP class offering.
Yeah. Okay, the initiative that we've tried to work together is a system K-12. And again, this is through quite a bit of, taking a lot of things that have been happening here in the last few years and trying to give it a little more structure, a little more organization, being very clear about these are the priorities that we want to work on together: competency-based education, universal design for learning, and social emotional learning. And I just have a few examples here. Few selected slides from the building principal and director. But again, looking at CBE, competency-based education, you know, trying to answer the most fundamental question of all: what should students know? When should they know it? How do we know it? Looking at changing a little bit the way we assess students, the way we give final assessments, final indications of how well students have learned. Traditionally, we give a grade that's based on an average of a bunch of tests and assignments and whatever. CBE doesn't necessarily do away with grading per se, but what it does do is it looks at whatever final information we give regarding how well a student's performing is based on what they know and they can do versus simply a set of assignments. And then some of the things that we're working on, we are working with a professional consultant in conjunction with partnering with us. SAU 36 is our partner in working with this consultant, and she comes once a month and has been developing our CBE program. Universal design for learning. Jerry knows it's my favorite one. UDL again it's a way of looking at students in terms of looking at how students learn, and that's not a new idea. We've been talking about this for years, but thinking about how they access information and how do we change what we do instructionally, how do we arrange a classroom differently. It's almost when I first started learning about UDL, it's almost, you think about it as architecture. How do we make a building accessible to all people regardless of their ability? And we put ramps, we put elevators, and we do different things to make buildings accessible to everybody so that nobody is shut out. UDL takes that same theory, that same framework, that same philosophy, and applies it to teaching and learning. How do I make my lesson accessible? How do I do a variety of activities? How do I look at student choice? So students have some choice in how they learn. And again, a lot of things that we've done and the teachers have been doing for a while with respect to differentiation helps support this approach to teaching and learning. Then the other part of it is how do we measure learning? How do we move away from the traditional paper and pencil test, although those aren't all bad. But if that's all we do, then we're probably missing some students who can show that they've learned in other ways. I chose these slides because some of the work that's done, again, at the various buildings. Some slides from up here, some slides from Lakeway. Socio-emotional learning. We know that students learn better when we adapt, when we work with them to address their socio-emotional needs. Students also learn better from a socio-emotional standpoint of expectations are made clear. So that's part of what we started with, is looking at the competencies, developing what we expect in terms of student behavior, student performance, but that's not everything. Saying this is what we want is one thing, helping students get there, supporting students to get there is the other part of it. These are competencies that were developed over a span of several years' time, middle school, high school, and LES competencies based on those. Choices, just a few other with our other program. Choices program for students in the lower grades that need specialized attention. High school life skills program, again an excellent program designed to help students develop the skills, the attitude, be able to once they leave the high school, once they leave the program, to be able to function, be self-sustaining, self-function, and employment and other opportunities also are part of this. Littleton Academy, similar to the Choices program down Lakeway, again, students in needing smaller classes, more supervision, more support. There's another program that's been here for a few years. And again, as a program that's helped this district quite a bit over the years to educate kids right here in town so they can stay here, they can live with their families instead of having to go to some other place to be educated. So that's important. Technology. Last last year we brought new technology director on board, Dale Pryor, and he did an outstanding job, did a lot of work. Him and Matt down at the elementary school have done terrific work in conjunction with the building principals, teachers. But we've done a lot of upgrading and work to try to make the system more stable, accessible, reliable. And so, the big ticket item was the work that was done with the access points. Those pieces of technology that allow us to access the internet wirelessly. And then just a lot of other work in terms of stuff that's not very exciting but has to be done. Figuring out the architecture of the network, labeling, figuring out what basic components of the network are functioning well and which are not. You see a lot of work that's been done there. Our Chromebook, when I got here last year, there was a lot of buzz about the big Chromebook rollout at Lakeway, and last year we saw the success of that continuing into this year. Our students all have access now to the Chromebooks. And then some of the plans going forward. Different options, Power School, the emergency system. Looking at, again, we have programs, sometimes we continue those programs, sometimes we look for other programs. Looking at ways to, again, make our programs and electronic technology devices work better in conjunction. Operations improvements. This is again the work that has been done. End of last school year, we had a surprise at Lakeway, one of almost weekly surprises. This was right at the end of the year with a little problem with a line outside the building. The unit ventilators are always on the brink. Replaced 4 last year. We've got one that's already exploded this year. Not exploded, we rephrase that. Froze up, ceased to function, and is being replaced. And then, of course, looking at other things, the Safe Route to School project, which was a project by the Department of Safety, involved federal funding, but again, enhanced the access to Lakeway and some of the neighborhoods as well. We've been talking about this since I got here, the roof at Washington Street. We got that done, and so our main storage, off-site storage shed is no longer leaking water on everything and ruining everything inside. We did install the roof to the gym here. We did replace a broken air conditioning unit. Safety, more cameras to help monitor. We're just working with our local law enforcement to enhance our ability to communicate. The security film we have on a number of doors and windows that helps us secure, stabilize the glass. Then a few things in the budget that we're taking to talk about tonight, taking to the voters formally later this winter. Replacing carpet in the office area of Lakeway, unit ventilators, I've already mentioned, we have to continue to replace those. We every year we remove some tile, asbestos-containing tile, during part of the bathroom renovations here at LHS. We have that in the budget, and then a facelift and upgrade, safety upgrades to the gym involving the ceiling, the divider, some other things to make the gym more and more to improve the overall safety as well as efficiency of that particular part of our school that we use so much. Programs by school, or budgets by school program, not much change. Other than these are the nuts and bolts budgets at the buildings and the CTC and SPED. You'll see that with most cases we're operating with less money in terms of some teacher supplies, classroom materials, textbooks, and so on. We cut these funds a year ago. We didn't raise them at all this year or next year, so those are cut level. And then just our budget philosophy. We've shared this a number of times. Priorities. Our curriculum, technology. I hope that the reason for the little presentation at the beginning is hope some of the things that I just talked about you see again, or we see again as we look through here. We talked a lot about curriculum. We talked about technology, working with curriculum alignment as part of our CBE process. Research-based instructional practices. That's universal design, among other things. Socio-emotional needs. Rigorous academic experience. We're adding AP classes. We're adding running start classes. We continue to expand courses and opportunities within our CTC. Facilities plan is ongoing. And then finally, ensure all facilities meet learning and safety standards. And that's something that the board has set as a priority, and certainly will set as a priority going forward. How are our buildings? Where are they? Are they up to at least minimal standards? Are they meeting the safety needs? Are they meeting the learning needs of students? Budget actions, before we talk about next year's budget, the current year's budget, what do we do to get here? What some of the things that have happened? We reduced the budget, 300,000. We retained funds that previously funds had been previously retained. We did not this past November. We returned 389,000 to taxpayers to help with the tax rate. And then you can see the different reductions. Lakeway, 2 teachers that did not come back. We did fill those positions. So the reduction of 2 teacher FTEs, a reduction of an administrator at Lakeway. The instructional coach is now shared positions. That represents a half-time reduction. And then you see at the high school as well, some reduction in terms of positions and reallocating certain positions. Our challenges, I think one of them is the cost of, with all the programs and despite our very, very best efforts and everything we have to offer for students and parents, there are students whose needs we can't meet. They have to go sometimes for short periods of time, most of the time, but sometimes for longer periods of time to get special care, to get specialized services, to get educational services, and that can run into some fairly significant costs. And this year, the current budget, we budget 230. We're looking at perhaps about 380 in actual expenditures there. That may be a little less, but it could be more as the year goes on. We'll see. We did raise the budget for next year slightly, 240, and then hoping that number will come back within the norm of the last few years. But that's something we just can't always predict ahead of time. We do have a special education capital reserve fund. We do get into an emergency situation that helps a little, but we always remind ourselves that potentially can be one placement. So it's helpful to have that. We don't think we'll have to use any of that this year. It'll be available to help support needs next year. Stabilization grant, 59,000 and change is deducted from our state grant every year, the phase out of the stabilization. I do note that legislation might change this, or just our cost of maintaining, repairing, replacing facilities. And then the last point is that we have to get creative. We have to look at ways to use what we have differently and more effectively. Student need isn't going to get any less. It's going to probably, if recent trends are any indication, it's going to get more challenging, more varied, more students that we have to get really specialized with. So we have to find ways to work with the people we have. We have amazingly talented people in our schools that can meet the challenge, I think, of all students. Okay, our operating budget, $16,639,000. That's a total. That's the appropriation. That budget, if you look at how it's divided up, as in but most organizations, any organization that's heavily payroll dependent, most of the expenditures are going to go into personnel, salaries, benefits, and certainly that's the case here. As you see, the pie is pretty much made up of that area. This is why when we start talking about cutting the budget, that's where you have to go to get the money sometimes. There's not a lot of money in the other area. The way the revenue splits out, most of our schools, just like every other public school in the state of New Hampshire, is primarily funded through local taxation, specifically the property tax. We do get some federal funds. We do get some funds through the state grant, but the lion's share of it comes through property taxes. Healthcare costs, projected rates, the support staff is the one that jumps out there, 9.5% increase. That 9.5% increase translates to about an additional expenditure of $90,000. However, the warrant article passes, that cost will be significantly less, obviously, $90,000. Budget overview, some of the areas are reduced a little bit, 1,100, that's salaries and benefits and so on. A little bit less in the instructional piece of that, health insurance. Those numbers went down a little bit because we don't have as many teachers as we did, staff members as we did before. It's a result of us cutting back, results of the cuts that we made last year. Special education is up a little bit. Part of that due to increased salaries, benefits. We didn't make cuts in the instructional piece of that, what we did administratively. And then part of it is just the increasing costs of tuition and some other things we talked about. Tech ed, not much change there. Other instructional programs, curriculars, up slightly. Some other areas, administration, not huge changes there. A little bit of change, mostly cost of insurance, slightly higher cost of benefits. Operations and maintenance, a little more there. Part of it is again, doing some work that we've talked about for a while. Okay, I get to stop a bit and let board members who negotiated, were involved in the negotiation process for the warrant articles speak a little bit to these two warrant articles that we're bringing to the community. One for our support staff, and the other one we'll look at in a minute is for teaching staff.
Good time to take that. Okay. So I'm speaking about the support staff warrant article. See that up there. We're showing a year one cost decrease of $29,657. Wages 5% offset by health insurance savings. And year two cost is an increase of $36,251, which is a 2.5 increase. So just to give you a kind of a summary of what is in the new proposal. The proposal was ratified by the Littleton School Board and the Littleton Support Staff Association, and it's a 2-year agreement. In Article 6, under placement of salary schedule, there will be a 1-step increase in 2018-2019 and a 1-step increase in 2019-2020. In Article 8, insurance benefits, there's going to be a change in coverage from the current options of Luminos and the 2 Matthew Thornton Blue programs to the same school care yellow and orange options that the teachers currently have. And this is a change. This changes both the savings to the employees as well as a savings to the school district, which accounts for the reason why we have a decrease in year one. Article 8A, also under insurance benefits. The employee elects not to enroll in the district insurance plan because they have other coverage available from another source and can provide proof that they have other coverage. The employee will be reimbursed $2,000 per family per year, minus any penalty imposed on the district, and this is an increase from $500 a year. Additional language was also added that this incentive is not available to an employee who has a spouse in the district as well. So because one spouse gets it, if you have another spouse in the district, that spouse is not eligible for that reimbursement. In Article 8B, which again falls under insurance benefits, this is tied to dental care. They will be replacing the Northeast Delta Dental Plan of New Hampshire with the school care dental plan option. And this particular option is actually less expensive to the district, to the employee, and actually is a better overall benefit. Article 9B falls under leave of absence. We made some language changes there that have been added. Personal leave may be used for compelling business and emergencies for which no other than in-school time can be used. That was added. Reasons for leave must be submitted to the building principal, and personal leave may not be used for recreation. And personal leave that are not used at the end of the contract year shall be added to the bargaining unit members' sick leave, subject to the accumulation limits written in Article 9A. So again, year one, wage increases in year one. All staff will receive an increase, whether they are on step or off step, of 58 cents per hour, and a wage increase in year two for those off schedule is a 35-cent raise, and for those on schedule is a 25-cent raise. And that's it. Any questions?
Okay, I'm going to speak a little bit to the staff, professional staff warrant article, the Little Teachers Association. Over the last few months, board and the LTA negotiated successfully. We came up with what I believe is a fair and equitable agreement. Should this warrant article pass, these are some of the highlights that will be in the new contract. And if these do pass, all the wording and all the contracts are available for review at the SAU office if anyone wants to know. So if these articles do pass, those will be in review in its entirety. Weren't too many major issues, a few language changes and a few little technical things. So I'll just go through a few of them. The contract is a 3-year contract, which is good since we won't have, this year we had 2 negotiations during the same time period, which was very taxing on the negotiating team. So hopefully this will pass and we'll have a staggered negotiation from this point on. Some of the major things that were changed in Article 27 dealing with childcare. Previously the LTA had free childcare for the preschool. We have negotiated to a 50% reduction rather than free, and it also leaves the school board in a position to be able to offer to the other employees in the district reduced rates if we choose to do that. We went from free to 50% charge for those students in the LTA contract. A couple of the things that were of note, Article 12, some of these were similar to what Greg was talking about as far as some of the wording. The leaves of absence, some of the language changes. Now there needs to be a reason for the leave, personal leave, 48 hours prior to the date on which the leave is to be taken, and personal leave may not be used for recreation. Also, personal leave days that are not used at the end of the contract year shall be added to the bargaining units, members' sick leave. So they were very similar to the other bargaining units agreements. A few other notes, as far as placement on the salary schedule, there will be 1 step increase each year of this contract. Approximately the steps will increase $575 per cell, which comes out to about 1 1/3% as far as the pay increase. We'll get to the numbers right there in the year 1 cost. Weighted averages is about 2.8%. That includes all the costs for the employee, including the taxes and the benefits. Year 1 cost increase, $174,389. Year 2, $173,514, and year 3 is $166,326. Longevity pay, we have some wording changes there. Previously, the contract that's in place now states that anyone on the top step or above and 17 plus years will receive the longevity pay bonus, but we changed the wording to anyone who has been in the district for 17 plus years will now qualify for the longevity bonus. As far as insurance, the benefits, the same insurance plan from school cares are available. The only thing we did change was the percentage over the 3 years of this contract. The first 2 years, 18-19 and 19-20, the percentage of 85 for the school district and 15% for the employee will stay the same. In the 3rd year of the contract, 2020 to 2021, it will drop from 84% for the school district and 16% for the employee. And I think that would be the major thing. Anything else Aaron, you wanted to add? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, just a quick comments on anticipated warrant articles, capital reserve fund. This is facilities maintenance. Same as we've done in the past several years, $50,000. That will be money that will be retained from leftover funds at the end of the year. Same thing with equipment of $30,000. We're asking to retain for that purpose. The default budget is $16,663,334. Is within $20,000 or so of what the budget we're proposing is. There's not a lot of difference there. As you see, the things that have to be put into that budget, that would become the budget if after the delivery session, if our budget goes through delivery session, then it's voted down. This would become the budget. A few other things that will be happening in this election cycle: election of school officials, the moderator for a 1-year term, school district clerk 1-year term, treasurer 1-year term. There is a school board position that is coming open. That is a 3-year term. The candidacy filing dates there, January 27th through January 26th for any of those positions. Sure. Moderator, 1-year term. School district clerk, 1-year term. Treasurer, 1-year term. School board member is a 3-year term. And the filing dates are from January 17th to January 26th. Do you mean that literally, Tom? Or no?
Just that last one.
Oh. Oh, okay, we got the whole thing. All right. And then just to close, I thought this was an appropriate picture, because this is where we try to get. But every student that comes in, we track them through and work with them from the time they come in, before they come here. But they come here as preschooler, kindergarten, all the way through Lakeway, and then up through middle school, high school, and they reach that day when they get to throw the mortar boards in the air and celebrate becoming a graduate of high school. Numbers there, I did overlay there that was provided. Last year's graduate, a small class last year, 44 students. Is the smallest class, I believe, in the system or the second smallest grade level in the system last year. Many of them went off to some kind of college, either 2-year, 4-year. Some are employed. Some undoubtedly who are employed will end up going to college, or technical college, or some kind of post-secondary education. Some are in college now, undoubtedly will come back and work. Some, and then maybe go back, who knows? But the point is that our graduates from last year are finding things to keep them going busy, whether it's in school or in the workforce. And then finally, we're available certainly to answer questions, provide data, materials, information, anything anybody needs to know before the deliberative session. We're available at the SAU office to provide. Question? Jerry?
This has nothing really to do with the budget. It's more when we were going through this universal design and other things. Do we still offer report cards to students? Do they, like 4 times a year, do they bring home a report card?
Timely question. We were just talking about that today. I'll let the building principals address that.
We
All right.
do 3 times a year labeled.
Okay, we do still give a report card that goes home. Okay, I was just curious.
High school, middle school, we've got power schools, so it's up to date all the time for the families throughout the entire quarter. We've got 4 progress report times through the year and 4 and a quarter. Some parents ask us to mail them, we
Okay.
mail them.
Yeah, because not every
Others-
kid won't bring them home.
Right,
Yeah.
right. They get mailed if they're requested, and of course at the end of the year, they get their end of the year transcript.
Okay, Okay, now, do we still have a class rank, like when kids apply to college and things like that?
Yep.
Sometimes
Oh,
they,
yeah.
we still have that
Mhm.
stuff, okay? I didn't know if that had
Yeah,
gone away.
no, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Ralph had a question.
Yeah, your special education students,
Yes.
in December 2016, you had 122, in December 2017, you had 125. That's 3 students. But
It
your
changes,
budget
it
by
changes
school-
all the time.
But your budget by school program has significantly increased, almost $80,000 in that period of time. Why are we up to 350,000 on special education in just 4 years? It was 177
Yeah,
4 years ago.
great, great question. Most of that are students who are being educated in programs outside of Littleton. And some of it's court ordered, some of it's placement by other agencies, but the tuition of students is responsible for most of that, virtually all of that.
So the other places we're sending them to, are their fees really high? Because we're talking
Yes.
about the same number of students.
Yeah.
So the
100,
fees have
150,
increased that
some
much?
cases 150,000 a year.
And that's a huge increase over 4 years ago.
No, we just have more students going.
Not according to this. According to this, you only 3
More
in 1
students
year.
in placement, not
3
more.
additional.
Not more identified students, more students in placement.
Yeah, I know it, I know. So of those 125 students, out of there, a handful of those are being placed in other learning programs. A few years ago, probably only 1 or 2 were versus 4 or 5.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
the
the
great
number of
question.
students being sent out is
Yeah,
increased.
the great,
And the
exactly.
cost for the where we're
Exactly.
sending to is increased.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right.
And I think if you do go back and research, by the way, the budget going back a ways, that there was a time, I mean, it could be worse, because there was a time that before some of the programs like Choices and the Academy came into play, many students were being sent out at much higher costs. So, but we do have some situations, and some are out of our control as well, that we're not able to meet the needs of the student.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Budget session is over with.
Oh, I thought you were going to present the budget itself. You're not doing that tonight. Line item by line item, you're not doing that tonight.
We gave that for
there.
the information, but if there's any questions about that, I hit, in the slideshow, I hit some of the higher dollar ones, if you will. Most of them you'll see is very little change,
Okay.
but feel free to ask questions if you wish, Ralph, if you want to.
So one question on this, is this
Yeah.
is 2018, 2019 default budget on one side, and the proposed budget is on the other side? Yep, okay. I take that home and redline it.
There you go.
Come in and see us anytime.
I'll come back and deliberative and red. Thank you.